Hi there.
Hi.
My name is Allison. What's your name?
Melissa.
Melissa. Very nice to meet you.
You too.
So, what brings you to therapy today?
I don't know. My parents can't deal with my behavior anymore. I guess what tipped them off was the fight I got into last week during gym class with this girl named Monica.
Okay.
Sometimes, when people just look at me the wrong way, I just feel like slamming their head through the lockers.
Okay.
And my parents don't think that's okay.
Okay. So now, I'm getting the sense that it was, as of right now, it seems like it was more of your parents' choice to come to therapy rather than yours.
Yeah, they said since I'm only 17, they can make that call, but I don't see what good it will do.
Okay.
Because I don't need help.
Okay, so tell me a little bit more about the relationship that you have with your parents.
I mean, they're cool, I guess. Sometimes we get along, and, recently they just seem to find anything I do wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Last week they found my flask in my bag.
Okay.
And I came home drunk the next day. So there's those issues. But all my other friends are doing it, so I don't know why they're giving me such a hard time. Don't they know this is just what you do in high school?
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that, you're feeling frustrated about, your parents wanting to put limits on your behavior and to help you, essentially, because what it sounds like is that, you might be engaging in some behaviors that might not be safe. Is that accurate to say?
I guess it depends on what you think safe means.
Okay. And what do you think that safe means?
That if someone's looking at me the wrong way, then I have every right to punch them in the face.
Okay. And then looking at that event, what was the consequence of that event?
My gym teacher called the principal, and I had to go down there, and it got suspended for a week.
Okay.
School's stupid anyway.
School can be very difficult, and I think that you're at this age right now in which you're sort of coming into your own, likely wanting to make your own decisions, and, it can be frustrating. Being in school is hard. There are a lot of people who are obviously pushing for us to do well. That's obviously our parents, that's our teachers, and it can be difficult to sort of feel like we can be our full selves. So tell me a little bit more about this incident. What were your feelings right before you engaged in that harmful behavior with the other student?
Well, what my parents and principal didn't know was that I had been drinking from my flask beforehand, so, you just get red with rage, and especially if you're a little bit tipsy, you just go beyond that and just, Also, I heard her talking the other day about saying something behind my back that Todd, the guy that I like, is, messing with some other girl, and I didn't appreciate that. Then she looked at me weird, so I felt like it all had to connect, and then I just punched her.
Okay. So it sounds like there was a lot of things building up to that point, hearing that someone that you're interested in is, supposedly talking to somebody else.
Yeah, some little hoe.
Okay. So yeah, it just sounds like there was a lot going on, in your head at that point, and obviously, engaging in alcohol, that can definitely intensify our emotions a little bit. So tell me more about, can you recall, and I understand that you were under the influence of alcohol, but can you remember any types of specific body sensations? Can you remember clenching fists or tightened muscles or anything like that physical?
Well, yeah, so it happens a lot, when anyone just does anything wrong or even looks at me the wrong way, I start to sweat and my heart beats fast, and I just feel the need to punch someone in the face.
Okay. And what do you
get out? I thought that was normal until now.
Okay. Okay. And when that does happen, how do you feel after that? What is the body sensation that you get after doing that?
I feel good because that relieves all my anger, just physically knocking that person out.
Okay. Would you say that it results in and long-term satisfaction? I mean, from what I hear you saying, you're saying that it feels good right after you do it, but is that more of a short-term or a long-term sense of satisfaction and happiness?
Well, in this case, I would say long-term because Monica had it coming.
Okay.
But, I mean, when I, curb stomped that person at the bus stop last week, I felt a little bad after that one.
Okay.
The cops had to pick me up, though, so.
Okay. So, yeah, it sounds like were all of these incidents, do they take place pretty much within the same time frame, like same last few months, year?
I guess the last year or so when I started hanging around with this group of people I became friends with when I started at my new high school.
Okay.
But they're cool. They're my ride or die, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
I have to do what they want to do too, and sometimes they will just take matters into their own hands and beat people up and
Mm-hmm.
stuff. So I do it too.
Okay.
But sometimes I feel angry like that anyway, even without their being there.
Okay. So what I'm hearing you say is that you found a group of peers who you seem to want to be accepted by, to be included with, and you're feeling as though the way to do that is to engage in the behaviors that they're engaging in.
Well, yeah, otherwise they won't be my friend.
Okay.
High school's tough.
It's very true. High school can be very difficult.
But also they're really fun, so it doesn't bother me much to do these behaviors
Mm-hmm.
because it's what I like to do too. Going out and drinking and cruising down I-95
Mm-hmm.
with a bottle of alcohol, And that's
Okay.
what it is. That's what you do in high school.
Okay. So how long have you been, when would you say that the drinking started?
I mean, I tried alcohol when I was like 14, but I guess this extended use started when I was like 16 last year. I'm 17 now.
Okay.
But I mean, it's what adolescents do, right? It's what all my friends do. It's normal. And sometimes, my dad will get drunk on the couch, so I just follow what he does.
Okay. So it sounds like right now you're sort of in this mode in which you feel as though engaging in certain, I know that you use the word behaviors in sort of a, kind of a negative sort of way. So I'll try to shy away from that word. But I mean, it sounds like you get something out of engaging in these activities with peers, and what would you say that you get out of that?
I mean, they're my friends. If I didn't do it with them, then they wouldn't be my friends.
Okay.
And it just helps me forget about all my parents nagging me and like the fact that I'm failing a few classes and the stuff with Todd.
Mm-hmm.
Drinking sometimes just makes you forget that stuff.
Mm-hmm. So you definitely have a lot going on right now, and it sounds like you've turned to alcohol as a coping mechanism. Is that correct?
Yeah, I guess. That's the term you want to use for it.
Well, what other ways what term would you use for it? So I'm using the word coping. So you can choose a different word if you want. We could word it as, this is how I deal with things, this is how I,
Yeah, I guess that's how I deal with
mm-hmm.
things.
Okay.
But also it's just fun. Haven't you ever gone out for a few drinks?
I think everyone has their own way of dealing with things, for sure. But I think I want to know, can you think of maybe a time in the past in which you dealt with some of these emotions, the emotions surrounding the thing that you have going on with Todd, the pressure that you're feeling from your parents, the need to maybe be accepted. Can you think of something other than, alcohol or violence that you used to cope or to deal with those emotions?
I like to listen to music.
Okay. What does that do for you? Can you describe?
If it's music I like, it just makes me feel better.
Mhm. Does it relax you? Does it de-stress?
I guess it relaxes me. It's something I like to hear.
What else?
Before I went to the school, I did track at my last school, but then when I met these friends, we do other stuff after school, so I don't do that anymore.
Okay. Now let's talk about some situations that make you angry on a regular basis. Is there something? I mean, this could be absolutely anything. It doesn't have to be the specific things that you mentioned about the fighting and the drinking. But can you just recall a certain scenario that happened recently in which you felt very triggered, you felt very angry, how that felt, and what you did about it, completely separate from, from becoming physical with someone or things like that?
Wait, a time that I didn't use physical violence?
Yeah, so a time that you got angry, but dealt with it in a different way that wasn't violent or that wasn't self-destructive in any way.
I mean, I guess there was this time a couple weeks ago when I had gotten home late for my curfew and my mom was yelling at me again, and I just got really mad because I don't think I should have a curfew on the weekends if I'm almost 18, but whatever. So she was yelling at me and I didn't want to deal with it anymore, so I slammed the door to my room, and then I was gonna do something, I don't know what, because I felt like really angry, but instead I just took a pillow and screamed into it. I heard that works.
And did you?
It didn't really work.
Didn't work that time? Okay.
But I guess it worked because I didn't end up punching the wall.
Okay.
I didn't feel like it worked.
Okay. So that's definitely a very noteworthy, positive way that you dealt with your anger. Is that something that you feel like would work long term, or do you think maybe it just worked in that moment, or?
Depends. I guess it might work long term, but it also depends on my access to alcohol because I didn't have any that night.
Okay. And what did you get? What was the consequence of, and I don't mean the word consequence, I guess what I would say is, what was the result of you screaming into the pillow? Like what, tell me something positive actually about the outcome of that. So this could be something that happened after that or something that didn't happen, but, in terms of, did it make you feel better? Did it result in you being just left alone for a little bit? Maybe your parents gave you space in your room. Did it result in, you being able to kind of process everything after you did that?
Well, I guess they left me alone, and, when you get mad, you just want to punch things or scream, so screaming just helped get some of that energy out.
Okay. When do you recall, I guess, what was the time in your life in which you realized that maybe you were starting to get angry about things in a way that in which you were exerting that anger and frustration in unsafe ways like we touched upon earlier? When did that begin?
I mean, I guess it was when, like 2 years ago, last year, it was right before I started the new school, and my parents have been fighting a lot, and, things weren't going well for me, and it made me angry all the time, and then hearing my dad scream at my mom and vice versa, I just figured that was the way to handle stuff like that.
Okay.
And then starting a new school, that's a lot of different people, and you don't want to be the person that no one likes at a new school, so you just have to do what you gotta do to make friends.
I can imagine that, you know, being in a brand new school, that's definitely a very scary time, and I think that naturally all anybody wants to do is make friends and feel that sense of acceptance. So I can definitely understand where you're coming from with that. So going back to you know, to your anger, and you know, and you talked about earlier how you engaged in some acts that weren't safe, and you know, they led you to get suspended, and it seems to be kind of putting a little bit more strain on the relationship with your parents. So what has it been like since that incident for you? Like, do you feel as though you know, that you've been given the opportunity to reflect on it, or do you have any thoughts about what happened, or anything that you might have done differently if you had the chance?
I mean, if I had the chance to do things differently, I would have punched her in the face and then also kicked her in the shin, but, you know,
Okay.
things got stopped before then.
Okay, so you're not it doesn't sound like you're feeling a sense of remorse or guilt.
No.
Okay. Can you remember a time, it could be recent, it could be within the last few years, where you did feel a sense of remorse or guilt as a result of, you know,
Well, yeah, that kid that I curb stomped on the street, that one I felt a little bad because he lost a few teeth.
Okay. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Well, you know, like, sometimes people just look at you weird, and he looked like he was talking about me or something to his friend. And so I just, you know, went over there and was like, what do you think you're looking at? And he was just like, oh, blah, blah, blah. So I just took him and I slammed him on the curb, stomped on his head, and then a few teeth came out. I mean, then I felt bad because the ambulance came, but
okay.
Maybe I shouldn't have done that, but a punch was definitely warranted.
Okay. So you felt as though he was disrespecting you, and you know, you felt the best way to handle that was to engage in a physical altercation with him.
Yeah.
Okay. So how did you feel immediately after that, in terms of you know, I know that you said that you maybe felt a little bit of guilt, a little bit of remorse, but that was as a result of the fact that he was pretty seriously injured. So yeah, can you talk to us a little bit about more about your feelings right after you did that?
I mean, I felt like maybe I shouldn't have done that, but I don't know. I just got overtaken by my anger that that's what happened.
Can you think of something that maybe you would have done differently?
Well, yeah, like I said, I think he should have been punched anyway, so I would have punched him instead.
Well, in terms of, you know, maybe like an alternative way to kind of maybe confront him without being physical. Could you think of something like that? Or are you feeling that getting physical was the only way to handle the situation?
It was the only way.
Okay. Okay. So we can get a little bit more into that later about sort of how to use other coping strategies when we're feeling you know, I guess targeted by someone in a direct or indirect way. There are definitely things that we can do to manage that. We can do a little bit of reframing work around that, because, you know, it sounds like what I'm hearing is that you had the sense that he might have been saying something about you, but you don't know for sure.
Yeah, I mean, he was looking at me and talking to his friend, so it was pretty obvious.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about what life was like in your old school. What was your social life like? What was your overall kind of routine back then? Your relationship with your parents? Anything notable that you can think of about growing up in, you know, in your other town?
I mean, I guess things were pretty normal. I had a lot of friends at my school, but they were all like into the lame stuff. Like they did cheerleading and, went to after school tutors and did their homework and stuff. They were home by like 10 p.m.
Okay.
But, I guess it was fine. I kind of miss it sometimes, but these newer friends are showing me more, cool things that teenagers do.
Okay.
And I don't know, I guess my family was okay, but my mom and dad started fighting a lot when I was like 13, and my dad drinks a lot, so that was always kind of like, I don't know, annoying. And I had pretty good grades at my last school.
Okay. But then it sounds like everything sort of started to change when you moved to your new school.
Yeah, I guess. But that's just me, growing as a person.
Okay. Can you think of some ways that you've grown as some examples of how you've grown as a person that doesn't involve drinking or doesn't involve engaging in violence or things of that nature? Tell me some positive things, some positive qualities that have kind of emerged from, from growing up.
I guess I got a job 5 months ago, and, I haven't been fired yet.
That's great. What job is this?
I work at, Stop and Shop. It's a supermarket. Stupid.
Well, what I'm hearing you saying is, I just heard you say the phrase, I haven't gotten fired yet. Tell me a little bit more about that. What makes you feel as though you would get fired?
I don't know, sometimes I come in, like, drunk from the night before, or, drunk from a minute before when I was chugging my flask, or sometimes there's this guy there that I really don't like, and, someday I'm just afraid that I'm going to end up trying to hurt him, just because he's the most awful person on the face of the planet.
Okay. And in what way is he awful? Is it in terms of his interactions with you, or just his overall demeanor, or?
Kind of both. He's
Okay.
like a manager, and, he's really he tries to control everyone that works there. And he saw me on my cell phone one time, and instead of saying anything to me, he told someone else to send me home early. What kind of coward does that? And he's just really unpleasant. He's having an affair with some woman that works there, thinking he's hot shit, but he's really awful.
Okay. So it sounds like he's definitely not one of your favorite people right now.
No.
Okay. So yeah, and I can understand, so you're feeling as though you might have more respect for him if he were to come up and tell you himself, listen, you need to go home, as opposed to getting somebody else to do it?
I guess, but also, like, just let me look at my cell phone.
It sounds like, from what I'm hearing, is that you have been struggling a little bit with limits, limits that are placed on you from teachers, parents, your boss. Would you agree with that? Do you feel as though you have trouble accepting limits?
I guess. I just don't know why I need to be limited.
Okay.
All the time, by everyone everywhere, trying to set limits on me. That just makes me want to not do them even more.
Can you think of a time? Okay. Well, can you think of a time in your life where maybe having a limit placed on you might have been effective and might have worked? Can you think of anything like that? This could be coming from a parent, your parent, teacher, boss, in which maybe someone sort of drew the line with you, and then there was a very obvious positive outcome. And it could be anything. It doesn't have to be,
I guess my parents' stupid curfew, when I'm actually following it, because one time when I was actually trying to do what they wanted me to do, I came home on a Saturday night at my curfew, which is 11. And like around 12:30 that night, my friends who were at a party, they got really sick. I think somebody put something in their drink. So I guess it was good that I avoided that.
Okay.
But I mean, that stuff happens, so
Mhm.
it's not gonna make me not want to go to a party.
Okay. That's very, it's very interesting that you say that, that you are able to, you know, recognize sort of some kind of positive outcome, even though it's not necessarily a long-term positive outcome. Like you said, it's not going to stop you from ever going to a party again, or ever, being in a social situation when there's alcohol involved. But, it's very significant that you're recognizing kind of a benefit from a limit that was placed on you. What do limits mean to you? I guess what they mean to you or what they don't mean to you. I mean,
It
tell me a
means
little
that
bit more.
people are trying to control me, and I don't
Okay.
like feeling controlled.
Okay, let's talk a little bit more about control. Do you feel in control?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, when I set my own limits, then I'm controlling myself.
Okay, and when you say set your own limits, what does that mean?
Like, do what I want to do.
Okay.
And not follow my parents' rules.
Okay. When was the last time that you stopped yourself from doing something, or limited yourself from making a decision or engaging in an act that might have been risky? Can you recall a time where you took the initiative to completely on your own stop yourself?
No.
Okay. So what I'm hearing is that you want to be in control. Control means a lot to you.
Mhm.
But I'm also hearing that you don't want that control being implemented by somebody else. You're in the state right now where you want to make your own decisions.
Mhm.
But what can you think of sort of a positive result that came from making your own decisions? Like where,
I mean, I decided to hang out with these friends, and they're cool, so I feel like, they'll be my friends forever, so that's good.
Mhm.
I decided to get this job, so now I have money.
That's
Unless
great.
I get fired.
Okay. What else? Tell me a little bit more.
I guess when I focus, I can do good at school.
That's great.
But that has to be from me, not my mom and my dad forcing me to go to school. That's not gonna make me want to go.
Okay. So now, so are you pretty much saying that you would be more prone to making more positive decisions if other people weren't coming in and trying to make you?
Maybe sometimes.
So for example, what's something that your parents generally make you do on a regular basis? So I know you mentioned, getting up and going to school. Is that a pretty regular thing? Okay.
They're slamming on my door at 7 a.m. on the dot, trying to make me get up and take a shower. I've been tardy like 50 times so far this year.
Okay.
They also try to make me like take out the trash and all that garbage. Literally.
Okay. So.
They want me to do other stupid chores too, like clean my room, but if it's my room, why do I need it to be clean for them?
Okay.
If I, can find what I need in a pile of stuff, then I'm gonna leave it there.
Okay. Can you think of if your parents were here right now, if they were sitting here, let's say on this couch, and maybe that's even something that we can consider, you know, if you ever want to come back for a second session, to maybe bring your parents in here if you feel like that might be helpful. If not, that's completely fine, but if your parents were sitting right here, what do you think that they would say?
They would just tell you how bad of a kid I am. Because they don't think that I'm doing anything right, and they're always on my case about everything, so that's what I imagine they would say.
So have they said to you, you're a bad kid?
No.
Okay. Have they expressed any, you know, made any kind of comments in regards to feeling disappointed or feeling?
Yeah, they yell at me when I do anything wrong. They tell me I'm too out of control and that's why I'm here. And yeah, I don't know, being yelled at doesn't make me feel wanted or cared about, so I assume they think I'm a bad kid.
Okay, and what would make you feel wanted or cared about?
If they just let me do what I want to do.
Okay, but now let's think back to some of these, you know, some of these situations in which you were doing what you wanted to do. You know, we can kind of touch back upon to, you know, how you became physical with that student and you were suspended. Did your parents, I mean, was there a difference in your parents' behavior after that, as opposed to like how they usually are? I mean, because it sounds like what I'm hearing is that, you know, you want to do what you want to do. You want to do what you want, and you feel as though that's going to give you more control. But has that resulted in your parents loosening the reins a little bit?
No.
Okay.
They just get even more mad.
Okay.
And then they grounded me after I got suspended, so that was fun. I had to stay home from school and stay in home for a week. I mean, but I tried to sneak out, so.
How are you feeling right now? I mean, can you tell me just a little bit more about sort of everything that's happening right now in terms of your body sensations, in terms of your feelings? Do you feel calm? Do you feel tense?
I feel kind of tense.
Okay.
And I've been like really overheated this whole time, just knowing that my parents tried to send me to a shrink.
Okay. I can understand that, you know, it's frustrating to feel as though we're being forced into something, as you've definitely, as we've discussed throughout this session. But what I'm also hearing is that, you know, yes, you feel as though your parents are forcing you, but can you think of the reasons why they want you here? Can you tell me a few reasons?
Well, just because of my fighting in school, my behavior, like screaming at them and the fighting stuff and the drinking, and probably not having, they think my friends aren't a good influence on me, but
you feel the opposite.
Yeah.
You feel happy with your friends, and
yeah, they can't control who my friends are too. They're trying to control everything else.
That can be frustrating. Well, what else would you, if your mom or your dad were sitting right here, and if you could tell them a little bit more, because what we did discuss throughout our session was a common feeling of just like anger and kind of what makes you angry, and you know, we talked about specific events that obviously were very triggering for you. You know, thinking that someone was talking about you, you know, perceiving somebody to be saying something about a guy that you like. But what else gets you angry? Can you think of any day-to-day situations that stimulate anger that doesn't come directly from like a person? It could be anything. It could be, you know, getting a flat tire. I mean, that would pretty much make anyone angry. But are there any specific kind of everyday things that trigger that emotion?
Yeah, I mean, like, if my computer isn't working right or going too slow, I get really angry, and sometimes I, just like slam it a little bit on the desk, and it probably doesn't make things better, but it makes me feel better.
Okay. Anything else?
If people are talking when I'm trying to watch TV, that just gets really annoying, and I sometimes blow up at them.
Mhm. What does that blow up look like?
I just scream at them to shut up. And maybe if I'm holding like a remote control, I'll throw it at them or throw it at the wall.
Okay. And it makes you feel better for a little bit.
Mhm.
Does it ever fix the initial problem though?
I mean, if I get them to shut up, then yeah.
Can you think of and we touched upon a little bit at the beginning of our session, you mentioned going into your room and screaming into a pillow and how you kind of obtained sort of a positive result from that. You were able to kind of be left alone, you were able to exert all of that inner frustration, anger building up. Can you think of any other realistic way, in any kind of everyday scenario that you could exert your frustration, but in a way that's healthy, that's appropriate, that's safe? Could you think of anything off the top of your head?
I guess if I did track again.
Did that relieve a lot of things for you?
Running helps.
That's great.
If I got mad, sometimes.
Does like removing yourself from the area sometimes help, like going for a walk or taking space or excusing yourself? Things like, do you think that any of those things might be beneficial?
They might, but usually I lose my temper before I can do that.
Mhm.
Before I can excuse myself and take space, I'm usually screaming at someone.
What about taking deep breaths? Have you ever done any kind of like breathing work or muscle relaxation or yoga or anything kind of therapeutic?
That stuff is stupid.
Okay. I think that a lot of clients in similar positions that you're in definitely find a lot of benefit to learning how to recognize when their anger is coming and when they feel like they're about to act out in an aggressive way. And we talked a little bit about how you know that you're angry when you kind of feel your fist clenching, you getting red in the face, muscles tensing up a little bit maybe. So a lot of the times, something that helps is to sort of catch ourselves feeling those sensations in our body coming. And as you said, sometimes it happens so fast that it can be really difficult to kind of stop ourselves when we get angry. But, I think that we can definitely find ways for you to learn how to recognize your emotions before they lead you to escalate, and then that can essentially and subsequently stop you from engaging in a behavior. Do you feel that that's something that you'd be interested in working on or trying?
I guess.
Okay. It's worth a shot, and I would, and what I'll do is give you a sheet of paper in which it has some information about anger coping strategies, and like we talked about, it could be taking space, so it could be appropriately advocating to remove yourself from a certain scenario. For example, if you're in class and a peer maybe gives you some kind of look, or maybe you perceive the peer as saying something that is offensive, you can advocate appropriately to your teacher to step out of the classroom, maybe go for a walk, maybe take deep breaths. It has information about some relaxation therapies, breathing in slowly and breathing out slowly. There's also, I know that might sound really silly to some patients, but there is the act of self-talk where you actually can remove yourself from the area and go to a private setting and kind of talk to yourself a little bit about what got you mad and what kind of stimulated those emotions. And then you can maybe write down what the positive outcome of that was. And so I think that maybe what I'll do before our next session is give you a little bit of a homework assignment where you can write down certain scenarios in which you felt really angry and what that felt like and what you did to sort of stop yourself. Does that sound like something that you can accomplish?
More homework?
It's pretty simple. I mean, you don't even it doesn't even have to be, you know, writing it down. Even if you don't even necessarily have to write it down. If you can kind of remember, if that's something that you would rather do, and then when we come back to meet for our next session, we can talk about some positive outcomes of you doing these things, and then we can kind of go from there. Okay. All right. Well, it was very nice meeting you.
You too.
All right. I'll see you next time. Okay, Melissa?
All right.
Okay. Bye.